Hare Krishna. Today is the appearance day of Sri Advaita Acharya, so the class will be based on his life and activities. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiranachari Yamuna Tiranachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Namo Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paravrachakacharya Saraswata His Divine Grace Jai Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Sundara Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Navadvip Dham Ki Madhur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Yamuna Maya Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Vrihad Mardanga Ki Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Garanga. So, have a really short voice, so I hope that the sound is clear. I was mentioning that today is the appearance day of Srivas Pandit, and so we'll sing Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we'll be reading about Srivas Pandit. The Gaudiya history has 3 biographies, and of course they're taken from this book. Sri Chaitanya, His Life and Associates by Swami B.B. Tirtha, who already left the body, and he compiled all the information about the assistants and associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all about the Panchatattva. And we know that Ganodashtipika is giving us information about who is who in Raja Leela's pastimes and in Chaitanya Leela's pastimes. So I'll begin by reading about that there is no difference between the energy and the energetic. This is about the Panchatattva. In regard to the Lord's appearance as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his 4 associates, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhar, and Srivas, among these 5 diverse manifestations of the Supreme Lord, as the Lord himself and his incarnation, expansion, and energies, there is no spiritual difference. They are 5 in one absolute truth. For the sake of relishing transcendental flavors in the absolute truth, there are 5 diverse manifestations. These are called the form of a devotee, the identity of a devotee, the incarnation of a devotee, the pure devotee, and devotional energy. This is from an excerpt from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, chapter 17, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and the second paragraph also, out of the 5 diversities of the Absolute Truth, the form of Lord Chaitanya is that of the original personality of Godhead, Krishna. Lord Nityananda is the manifestation of the first expansion of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, Advaita Prabhu is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. These 3, Chaitanya, Nityananda, and Advaita, belong to the category of Vishnu Tattva, or the Supreme Absolute Truth. Srivas represents the pure devotee, and Gadadhar represents the internal energy of the Lord for the advancement of pure devotion. And therefore, Gadadhar and Srivas, although included in Vishnu Tattva, are dependent, diverse energies of the Supreme Lord. In other words, they are not different from the energetic, but they are manifest diversely or diversely for the sake of relishing transcendental relationships. This is very important because all this diversity is in order to showcase transcendental relationships. Each one of them has a different function. Krishna, being the Supreme Absolute Truth, is Lord Chaitanya, and Balaram is Lord Nityananda. And Srimati Radharani is Gadadhar Pandit. Vishnu, or the Supreme Lord again, is Advaita. And the pure devotee is Srivas, about whom we are reading today. The whole process of devotional service involves a transcendental reciprocation in the relationship between the worshipper and the worshipped. This is our situation also. We have within our reach at some level, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, this gift of having a transcendental relationship between us and the Supreme Lord, whether it's Lord Chaitanya, Panchatattva, or Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Srimati Radharani. Without such a diverse exchange of transcendental flavors, devotional service has no meaning. And again, I said before that this is an excerpt from Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, chapter 17, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Let's read about Srivas Pandit's origins. This is from the Goloka Gahanodesha Tipika number 90. Srivasa Pandit Dimanya Pura Narado Munihi Parvatakyo Munivaroya Asin Narada Priyaha Sri Rama Pandita Shriman Tatkanishta Sahodaraha Namnambika Vraje Datristanya Datristita Pura Saiveyam Malini Namni Srivasa Grihini Mata. Translation. Srivas is Narada, who plays such an important part in Krishna's Leela. Narada Muni's friend, Parvata Muni, appears as Srivas' younger brother Ramai. Shiva's wife, Malini Devi, was Krishna's wet nurse in Vraj. Her name was Ambika. He is Ambika. Again, this is from the Goloka number 90. Srivas Pandit hailed from Sylhet. He later came to live in Navadvip, where he made an immense contribution to Gauranga Lila. From the Chaitanya Bhagavat and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we learn that Srivas had 3 brothers living with him in Navadvip: Sri Ram Pandit, Sripati Pandit, and Srikanta or Srinidhi Pandit. All 4 were participants in Mahaprabhu's Lila. Gaudiya Vaishnava Abhidhana charts Prema Vilas in saying that Srivas's father was a Vedic Brahmin of the name Sri Jaladhar Pandit. Srivas Pandit was the second of 5 sons. The eldest son, Sri Nalini Pandit, had a daughter named Narayani, the mother of the author of the Chaitanya Bhagavat Vrindavan Das. Very important element here, how they are all connected. Narayani's husband, Vaikuntha Das Vipra, died while she was pregnant with Vrindavan Das. So she left her husband's house in Kumarahata, Hali Sahar, and came to live with Srivas in Navadvip. And we'll hear about how Lord Chaitanya deals with the little girl by engaging her in chanting the holy name later. Kirtan pastimes at Shiva's Angam. After a night of kirtan at Srivas's house, when Mahaprabhu returned to external awareness, he would go with all the devotees to bathe in the Ganges. Sometimes the devotees would ceremonially bathe the Lord at Shiva's Angam. One of Shiva's servant girls named Duki would watch Mahaprabhu's ecstatic dancing with tears in her eyes. She also performed the service of filling jugs of water from the Ganges for Mahaprabhu's morning bath. One day Mahaprabhu observed her devotion and was pleased. He changed her name from Duki and Happy to Suki, Happy. This is part of the pastime. So I'm going to go to the second biography, which is pretty extensive. And if we have time, we'll get some from this book. Because there's all of this biographies on the Shivas Pandit and everybody else, like I just said before, are taken from this book. Intelligent Shivas Pandit had previously been Narada Muni, the best of the sages. Shivasa's younger brother, Shriman Rama Pandit, had previously been Narada's close friend, Parvata Muni. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, the Vyasadev of Sri Gaurasundar's pastimes, has sung the praises of Shivas Pandit in this way, quote, "It was in Shivas Pandit's house that Sri Chaitanya enacted his pastimes of Sankirtan. These four brothers were continuously engaged in singing the names of Sri Krishna. They worshipped Sri Krishna and bathed in the Ganges 3 times every day. These four brothers previously lived in the district of Srihata, and later on they came to reside on the banks of the Ganges. There, they regularly used to attend the assembly of devotees who gathered in Sri Advaitacharya's house to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam and engage in congregational chanting of the holy names. Gradually, the brothers became very close friends of Sri Jagannath Mishra, with whom they would chant and listen to the Bhagavatam. They were older, quite a bit older than Lord Chaitanya. In all matters, Srivas was the leader of the four brothers. By the strength of his devotion, he could understand that Sri Krishna was going to appear in the house of Jagannath Mishra. Shivas Pandit's wife's name was Shrimalini Devi, and she was a very close friend of Sri Sachi Devi, always very helpful to her. Seeing the wretched state of the fallen living entities in Kali Yuga, the devotees began to plaintively pray to the Lord for their deliverance. Krishna hears the call of his devotees. On the full moon day in the month of Phalguna, in the year 1407, Christian era is 1486, the Lord incarnated himself. With his appearance, there was the simultaneous dawning of all auspiciousness within the world, as it became filled with Harinam. So all the auspiciousness of the world is when the world is filled with Harinam. And later on, if there's time, I have a selection from one of Aindra's books, The Heart of Book Distribution. I would like to read that about what Harinam is. Just as Sri Advaitacharya from Shantipur could understand that the Lord had appeared, similarly Shivas and some of the other devotees of Navadvip also understood. Since previously Malini Devi was engaged in attending upon Sachi Devi, Srivas and Jagannath Mishra came to her at this time and hinted that she was especially needed now. As long as the Lord chooses not to reveal himself, no one can possibly recognize him. Therefore, even though from his childhood the Lord exhibited many supernatural abilities, still, due to his deluding potency, the devotees could not fully understand the true nature of Lord Chaitanya. Their hearts were simply filled with parental affection for him. Talk about the two couples. Without a trace of awe or reverence, Srivas and Malini gave Sachi Devi and Jagannath much advice on how to raise their new son. Srivas and Malini were just like a mother and a father to Sri Gaurasundar, because young Nimai Pandit seemed to have grown arrogant by his scholarship. One day Srivas Pandit decided to give him good counsel. Why do people study? So that they might understand what is devotion to Krishna. That's a lesson for us. Why do people study? So that we can understand true devotion to Sri Krishna. He told Nimai, that she was speaking to Nimai. If by scholarship one doesn't gain devotion to Sri Krishna, then how will that learning help him? It becomes simply a tedious endeavor, which in the end is nothing but a waste of time. If you have actually learned something, then begin your worship of Sri Krishna now. Make haste. This is the purpose of your life. So as a father, Srivas was advising Lord Chaitanya, who appeared to become very arrogant because of his scholarship, to really take things in the right perspective and to start his devotional life right there and then. Of course, nobody knew that he thought it was Krishna himself. Nimai laughed as he replied, "By your mercy, certainly, that will come to be. If you are all kind enough for me, then definitely I will attain devotion to Sri Krishna's lotus feet." Shortly thereafter, Mahaprabhu journeyed to Gaya, where he performed the pastimes of accepting initiation from Sri Ishvarapuri. Thus, gradually, he began to take up his real work of distributing loving devotion to Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One day, in an ecstatic mood, Lord Gauranga entered Srivas's house, asking, "Srivas, whom do you worship? Whom do you meditate upon? Now with your own two eyes, see that person standing before you." So Lord Chaitanya is going to manifest his personality as Krishna in front of the eyes of Advaita Acharya. This is a quote from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Lila, chapter 2, verse 258. Saying this, Mahaprabhu entered the deity room within Srivasa's home temple, and sat down on the Simhasan of Lord Vishnu, revealing his own four-armed form, holding the conch, disc, club, and lotus flower. Seeing this form, Srivas was totally stupefied. Sri Gaurasunda then said, "Due to being called by your Sankirtan and the loud roaring of Sri Advaita Acharya, I have left Vaikuntha and have descended upon this mortal world, accompanied by my eternal associates. I will destroy the miscreants and deliver the pious. Now, without fear, you can chant my glories." So it was the roaring of Advaita Acharya and the loud Sankirtan singing of Srivas that kind of jolted the Supreme Lord into deciding to come down so that he could protect the devotees and annihilate the miscreants. And we know that he did not annihilate the miscreants by killing them, but by changing their consciousness from sinful to saintly. Hearing these words of the Lord, which dispelled all fear, Srivas fell on the ground, offering his obeisances, and then he began to recite hymns in praise of the Lord. And this is from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. I'm going to read some praise that Srivas uttered. My obeisances are the lotus feet of the support of the entire universe, Vishvambar, whose bodily color is like that of a newly arrived rain cloud, and wears garments which are the color of a thunderbolt. Well, we imagine that the color is it's golden, it's like gold actually, with this kind of reddish hue that pure gold has. My obeisances are the lotus feet of the son of Sachi, who is bedecked with ornaments of peacock feathers and a garland of red beads, which is Gunjamala. My obeisances are the lotus feet of the pupil of Gangadas, the beauty of whose lotus face conquers that of 10 million moons. My obeisances are your lotus feet, you who carry a buffalo horn, a stick, and flute. The four Vedas have proclaimed you to be the son of Nanda. Unto you, my dear Lord, my obeisances I offer again and again. This again is from chapter 2, verse 272 to Today, my birth, my activities, my everything have become successful. Today, my very existence has been crowned with the greatest auspiciousness. Today, the race of my forefathers has finally borne fruit, and my house, which was also their house, has become blessed. Today, the great fortune of my eyes is completely beyond calculation, because I have been able to see that person whose lotus feet are served by the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. So that was in appearing the Supreme Lord in his four-armed form before Srivas, manifesting his nature, that Srivas was reciting these prayers. Having described the glories of Sri Gaurasundar in various ways, Sri Gaurasundar showed even more compassion to Srivas by revealing himself to all of his family members. Seeing the niece of Srivas Pandit present before him, Prabhu called to her, "Narayani, call upon Shri Krishna with tears in your eyes." And immediately this little girl, only 4 years of age, as if in a delirious frenzy, began to cry out, "Hare Krishna," while shedding tears incessantly. In fact, the flood of tears coursed down her body to such an extent that the ground around her feet became soaked. Again, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya, chapter 2. Seeing little Narayani totally agitated in ecstatic love, Srivasa's wife and even the household servants also began to shed tears of love. Who wouldn't want to be in that environment right now? So it is a lesson for us to chant in such a way that eventually this will happen. They will chant with such devotion and such desperation, aiming for the love of the Lord, that will just melt in tears. The courtyard of Srivas took on a very beautiful appearance, being decorated with ecstatic love for Krishna. And then it talks about how the servant Duki was named Sukhi, because her service attitude was so pleasing to Lord Chaitanya that he renamed her with the name Happy, Sukhi. One evening, Sri Gaurasundar, accompanied by his associates, was engaged in chanting and dancing at the house of Srivas Thakur when one of Srivas Thakur's sons passed away after having suffered the effects of some disease. Within the inner apartments of his house, the women began to wail in lamentation at the boy's untimely death. Apparently he was his only son, as I read somewhere else. Srivas Pandit, who was outside the courtyard, understood some tragedy must have taken place. He quickly entered the house only to find that his son had passed on to the next world. As he was a very grave devotee and completely conversant in the science of the Absolute Truth, he was able to console the women in their grief. He said, "You are all aware of Krishna's glories, so please restrain yourselves and don't cry. Whoever during his last moment hears the Lord's holy name, even though he might be the greatest sinner, attains Krishna's abode." How appropriate that is for now. I'm going to repeat this. Whoever during his last moment hears the Lord's holy name, even though he might be the greatest sinner, attains Krishna's abode. And that incomparably wonderful Lord, he whose glories are sung by all his servants, up to and including Lord Brahma, is now personally dancing in the courtyard of your house. So how fortunate this boy is that while the dancing is going on, he has left the body. So his Srivas is trying to console the ladies because they're crying. Of course, they can't restrain their tears of pain and suffering, and they're wailing. But that is going to be disturbing to the Lord and to his performance of Harinam Sankirtan. So he is philosophically and gently consoling them and making them understand that the future of his son, who just died, is very glorious. This moment is so auspicious that it's sure this boy has successfully completed his journey from this world. Is there anything to be lamented at in this? His good fortune is completely assured. I can understand that whatever part I have played in this is also crowned with success. And again, all of this is from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, chapter 24. This is verse 230. And Srivas concluded by telling them, if you cannot control your emotions because of your family affection to the boy, then at least don't cry now. You can cry later. The Supreme Lord of Gokula himself, Sri Gaurasundar, is performing Sankirtan, accompanied by his devotees in this house. If due to your crying, the happiness that he's experiencing from dancing in ecstasy during Sankirtan is disturbed, then I will just this minute jump into the Ganges and thus give up my own life. Not a blade of grass moves unless by Krishna's will. To see in this happiness or distress or knowledge or ignorance is simply imagination. Know that whatever Krishna wills is good, and thus giving up your own selfish desires, become free from confusion and unnecessary botheration. Krishna is giving and Krishna is taking away, and it is Krishna alone who is maintaining everyone. Someone he protects and someone he destroys, all according to his will. If someone contemplates something contrary to Krishna's will, then, as a result of his desire, he only gets torment. Giving up all lamentation, simply hear Krishna's name, and thus pass through all difficulties, feeling great happiness. Then your desires will actually be fulfilled. I'll repeat this. Giving up all lamentation, very appropriate for this time where we lost the beloved member of the community. Giving up all lamentation, simply hear Krishna's name, and thus pass through all difficulties, feeling great happiness. Then your desires will actually be fulfilled, going to a much better place. Having given all of these instructions to those present, Srivas again went outside to join Mahaprabhu in ecstatic chanting and dancing. This is about when Srivas's little son left the body while the Harinam was going on in the house of Srivas Thakur. So this is very appropriate for the Neo family to hear. Having given all these instructions to those present, Srivas again went outside to join Mahaprabhu in ecstatic chanting and dancing. The women leaving the dead body came to hear the kirtan of Mahaprabhu, and so Mahaprabhu continued his chanting until the middle of the night. And it's interesting, the point here being made, because Lord Chaitanya feels that there is something amiss. He knows there's some sorrow in the vibrations. And even though the chanting is extraordinarily beautiful, he notices there is something that is amiss. So he inquires, and then he finds out that the son of Shiva, Samalini, has left the body. And he says, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me before? Alas, what a tragic event. This is Lord Chaitanya speaking. Why didn't you tell me of this unfortunate news before? And Srivas Pandit replied, I will explain. I couldn't tolerate disturbing you while you were enjoying Sankirtan. If one of my sons dies, what sorrow is there in that for me? If we all die while seeing you, that would actually be a matter of great happiness. On the other hand, if you would have to stop dancing, then perhaps I would have died. my Lord, this was the danger that I feared, and thus I didn't tell you at that time. And now listen to what Lord Chaitanya is going to say. Since she was upon this profound devotion, Sri Gaurasundar said, how can I give up such company as this? With tears in his eyes, Lord Chaitanya continued, due to love for me, he didn't even feel lamentation at the death of his son. How will I ever abandon their companionship? In other words, these devotees are so close to the Supreme Lord, and they love the Supreme Lord so dearly that they will do anything for him. And so he feels indebted. He says, how will I ever abandon their company? They're so dear. They're so beloved. The Lord continued to cry, and the devotees began to worry within, having heard him speak of leaving them. Thereafter, Mahaprabhu came to where the dead body of the infant was lying, and touching it, he called, boy, why are you going away and leaving Shiva's Pandit? The life of the dead child returned at the touch of Mahaprabhu's hand. After offering obeisances to the Lord, he replied, O Prabhu, that's the child speaking now. O Prabhu, whatever you ordain is absolute. No one can do anything but what is sanctioned by you. As many days as I was destined to remain here in your house, that many days I've stayed. Now my time has elapsed, and I have proceeded to leave. My Lord, I have taken birth and died repeatedly, but this time, at the time of death, I passed away quite happily, having taken darshan of your beautiful face. After saying this, the child became silent. Sri Gauranga Roy thus enjoyed a kind of transcendental sport, this exchange with the child. The child finally made it to the spiritual world. He left the body happily. Why? Because Lord Chaitanya was there, presiding. And what was Lord Chaitanya doing? Dancing and chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mahaprabhu then told him, since myself and Nityananda are your two sons, please don't feel any more distress in your mind over what has happened. Now, Lord Chaitanya said, you are our parents. Hearing these compassionate words of their Lord, the devotees' cheers were resounded throughout the heavens. Proving the statements of Shastra, their lordships, Gaura and Nityananda, became deeply indebted to Srivas due to his great love for and service to them. I think this is a good moment to read about the holy name from this book by Indra Prabhu. I have the quote here. Let's see if I can get it right away. This is toward the end of the book. And he writes, to reiterate as well as emphasize, this is Indra speaking, he's writing this, the heart of book distribution. What is the heart of book distribution? What is the heart of book distribution? What is it that gives life and makes the book distribution successful? The holy name. This is all about the holy name. To reiterate as well as emphasize a point briefly mentioned in chapter 2, it should be doubly reaffirmed that in this age of Kali, the success of any other limb of devotional service, not excluding the execution of Bhagavad Shravana Kirtana, of which transcendental book distribution, Brihat Kirtan, is an extension, largely depends upon one's isochronous absorption in the direct practice of Nama Sankirtan. Isochronous is a Greek word. Iso means the same and chronos is time. In other words, when everything comes together, everything finds its center in the chanting of the holy name. It is seen with reference to Acharya Vani, the instructions of the Acharya, that the most highly elevated self-surrendering devotees doubtlessly prefer to exclusively embrace the congregational singing of the holy name rather than rely on any other devotional processes for the evolvement of prema. In the Bhakti Shastras, the efficacy of Nama Sankirtan is well established above all other angas of bhakti. In fact, Nama Sankirtan stands alone as the greatest devotional practice, Mahasarana, and therefore reigns supreme as the only infallible means of attaining love of Godhead. These are really big words. They're big thoughts. We need to not memorize, but to actually meditate on what is being written here. It is not that other forms of devotional service are as good as Nama Sankirtan, but somehow or other, Nama Sankirtan is not really good enough, obliging us not to highlight its performance. He's being sarcastic here. In any way, I'll read it again. It is not that other forms of devotional service are as good as Nama Sankirtan, but somehow or other, Nama Sankirtan is not really good enough. And he puts in brackets financially viable or whatever, obliging us not to highlight its performance in any way. This is a sarcastic comment. Okay, please bear that in mind. If we are to propose that Nama Sankirtan is not good enough to merit our concern, then any engagement allegedly, quote, as good as Nama Sankirtan should also be equally ignored. Beyond that, the proposition that any devotional activity is in any way better than prosecuting the Yuga Dharma should be deemed sheer madness. Any other anga of sadhana bhakti deserves to be lauded as sadhana only if it in some way facilitates one's active absorption in Nama Sankirtan rasa. Further, any sadhana that fails to promote but rather tends to detract from one's progressive attachment to the process of Nama Sankirtan is simply an anartha. He doesn't mince words. An impediment on the path of ultimate perfection, even if in the broader sense it is computed to be some sort of Sankirtan. So I don't know what time it is, but it's probably, we have 1 minute, 2 minutes. If anybody, there's so much about Srivas Thakur, but I thought I would just emphasize all these points that we were reading today, I was reading today. And please read on your own, because the pastimes of Srivas Thakur is very, very, not only wonderful, but also very instructive. And how he and Advaitacharya, by their singing and they are crying, were able to bring Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya to this earth so that he could protect the devotees and spread the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha mandar ako di kamania Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Asa Sakalem Priya Priti Vanti Vasyanti Vanti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adi
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hi. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Shri Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Echai Goshai Kori Charana Vandan Yaha Hoite Vignana Sabista Paran Sabista Paran Echai Goshai Jar Mui Chardas Tan Sabara Para Renu Mora Panchagras Tandira Chanana Sevi Bhakta Sanabas Janame janame hoye avilas. Echai goshai dabe braja koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Sri Guru Vaishnava Pare Majayaman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Para Padma Koras. Para Padma Korya. Nama Sankirtana Kohe Narottamadas. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.